Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community. Gandalf here, bringing you another in-game mechanics guide. So today we're going to be talking about stamps, and this is new content that was just released, I believe, as part of yesterday night's patch. So as of August 16th, 2023. Now, I'm sure this video, a lot of people will be looking at it because it's brand new content. Everyone's trying to figure out what stamps are and how stamps are going to be impacting the game. And, for people who are listening to this video, maybe, 4 month, 5 month down the road, take everything that I have said in this video with a caveat. I'm pretty sure I'll have a refresh guide, few months down the road as we, go through the broken isles, we get more higher level stars and see how these stamps impact the game. But off the bat, I just want to say I think the devs did a pretty good job implementing stamps in a multitude of ways. One, I think what stamps brings to the game is, in a way, it's balancing out some heroes and giving some of the underused heroes um, some niche capabilities that synergize super well with these stamps. It's almost like, in other games where when a hero is equipped with its like unique artifact or a unique weapon, all of a sudden get all of these bonus attributes and abilities. This is kind of what it feels like. And it really gives you a different feel for the gameplay. You have the base hero. Now, if you can get the specific stamp for it, that works really well with it. All of a sudden, the hero that used to be maybe, your average A tier or, your average hero now all of a sudden becomes, the S tier, something that's actually really good. So we'll be going through it in today's video. I know it's probably going to be a long one, so please bear with me and listen throughout. I think in the first section, I'll just show you the mechanics of how stamps work. So, you can start summoning them, and then, you can start upgrading them and equip them to your heroes. Then I'm going to go through the elites, the epics, and legend in that order because we'll probably all have a lot of elites to work with and talk about, maybe what are some of the best heroes to use with each of these stamps. So let's get right into it. So first, what are stamps are basically like your summons, and I don't know if stamp wishes will, we'll have events where you summon more of these. You're given 30 right after the event. Sorry, right after the patch update. I already used mine. I think here you can see your latest hero record. I didn't pull any. I pulled my 30. I got 3 epics and a bunch of elites, but I think it seems like to be on a rotation maybe every 2 weeks. A legendary card will be on the rotation, and then we can choose to summon with a higher chance of getting it or not. Right now, there's a poll on the main Discord where people can choose: are we allowed to convert these excellent runes into stamp wishes? Most people, I think, are voting against it. I think there's pros and cons to both. I mean, if we limit the ways of stamp wishes to just the way you buy it, because I mean, how can we? It's really broken land shop, right? We can't, you the resource store. I don't know if there's a way. I think we can buy them somehow, maybe. Okay, so it's same cost as our summons, right? So I guess you can get it through gems. But most part, I think we'll be getting it from Broken Lands, which is going to be guild content. Now, I hope we get a lot of it, but otherwise, it really becomes really whale or pay to win content there, right? So we're on our first rotation, so I don't know what's going to be like, but let's hope we get a good decent amount so we can summon and hopefully it's not going to be something that you really have to spend a lot of money on to get these stamps because they do seem to be quite impactful on the game. So this is how you get your stamps. Once you get your stamps, you can equip them on your hero. You notice there's a new icon here called stamps, and I'll show you what I've done with some of them. So, for example, um, with Macken actually, a hero I know a lot of people would have, and you'll probably get tons of these. This particular epic one, it's called Fencing Apprentice. And what you notice is it increases your attack, but it reduces your skill damage and increase your base attack. So at level 0 star, I think it's plus 6%, or sorry, 4.5%. And when you upgrade it fully, it's 12%. So you can equip it and you can remove it, right? We were removing it, now we're equipping it. And the way you enhance it is you can level it up by feeding it stamps you don't need. And you can see it's leveling up. Now it's to level 2, right? So you need like 1,000, I think, to just get to the first level, then another 2,000 to get to the next level. So it quickly adds up. So you do need a lot of extra stamps to feed to level up, and it basically increases the primary stat that's associated with the stamp. The star level can be increased by feeding it the same copy. So let's go find one where, so for example, if I'm equipping this one, right, and I enhance it, you can see the star level, I can enhance it by feeding it of the same material. Now, what's really cool about these stamps is there are ways to really benefit for specific heroes. So for example, Mackin, right? Mackin has 2 active skills, but they don't actually do damage. So now all of a sudden, what I can do is just reduce the owner skill damage by 20%, which I don't care about. But now all of a sudden, I got a 12% base attack damage plus 4.8% attack, which can be further upgraded as I raise the level here. That's actually quite impactful because all of a sudden now this 100% is going to be 12% more, right? That's almost like 12% straight more damage, and that is a straight up multiplier, not additive. I'm hoping. I'm pretty sure it is because usually that's how they word it in this text. And you notice that after the skill change, right? Stinger attack to lightning stoke. I mean, all of it, it just increases your base attack, right? So your skill up and your passive, all of it, you know, isn't really negative impacted. So these stamps, they're super helpful. On my Nita, for example, stamp-wise, I've decided to use the Skill Master Aura, and I don't think I pulled 5 copies of it, but only, so I'm reducing the base attack and increasing the skill damage. So all of a sudden now, you know, I'm going to be doing more poison damage on the particular skill now, and I'm going to be doing, a bit less base attack damage, but the poison damage won't be changed. The dots taken by the enemy won't be changed, but the skill damage, like for example here, the extra damage, all of this is now going to be to be um, multiplied here. Okay, so hopefully that kind of explains how stamps work. It's really straightforward. You can equip it to your hero. It directly impacts the stats. So for example, um, let's go back to Mac as example here, and they're all the additional stats is on the base stats. So for example here, you can see it's 981. If I remove the stamp, it's going to go down by about 557, so that's just about right. Because when you look at your equipment and gear, it's really off of this base stat. Now, so that's why, you see a 4% increase, in attack. It's not on the whole amount. So that's why things like maybe, crit damage and crit rate or mastery, it's more additive to it. So it seems to be a little bit more impactful. Um, so let's put the stamp back on. Um, so it goes onto the stats directly. So for things that you definitely want, right? So for example, I want more mastery on my dot damage dealers. Oh, where's my low jack? Um, there we go. So for example, for Jack, I'm going to try to find something with mastery on it. Obviously, I don't have one. It is in some of the epic ones, but if I get one, I'll definitely want one and start upgrading it because it will, add more to the mastery stat that I need it for. So that's kind of, from a mechanics perspective, they made it relatively straightforward to use. The star system, it's very much like the auras. You just, or like any other game where you need duplicate copies for the stars and you just feed excess of it to get the level up. Stat wise, I think, from what I've read so far in the gallery, like early on theory crafting suggests that you can potentially increase the damage output up to maybe 15 to maybe even 20% of a particular hero with the right stamps fully maxed out. Possibly more. I mean, time will tell as people start rolling out, max level, 5-star legendary stamps. I mean, since they put it, you can purchase these, so, whale away, big whales and krakens out there. and you let us know how impactful stamps are. Here we're just theory crafting. Okay, so I think I talked enough about how it works. Let's go into what heroes will work really well on some of these. So let's start with the epics, which everyone probably got at least a copy of. So maybe from here, burst of energy. This is reduced 50% after the end of the first turn of the wave, but then it's still kept. So this is actually a really good generic one, right? It's just straight up crit damage, more crit damage, good for all of your direct damage dealing heroes. No questions asked. Even it's reduced by 50% after the first turn of each wave, or um, it's still quite a bit, right? 4.5 on top of that. So that's just free stats. Next is crit rate. So this is really cool because you get the crit rate and then you get additional direct damage deals. So something like Jellyman, right? You do the ultimate, you slow the enemy down, and then the subsequent hits all, benefit from this buff. It's increased further. You can have Santa slowing down your enemy all the time for some teams. So, direct damage dealer just got additional crit rate. For some of the newer players who are struggling to hit that 100% crit rate, well, here you go. Here's some, extra crit rate for you. And the enemy and even bosses, most of the time, we always bring something with, speed down status. So, additional direct damage always helps. Increasing skill damage, but your basic attack, do very low damage. So this is like increasing your base attack, right? So things like Mackin or even Lucifer might be worth it of this particular one if you're early in the game and you need one. You get the attack. I think the attack up plus the base attack, especially using with a Ben Austin or Whistler, you're just doing a lot of basic attacks, and the basic attack is the one that actually does most damage. Very high multiplier on it, so great for that. Mackin, perfect one for Mackin. Skill Master, so basically things that do a lot of damage from the skills, but the basic attacks do jack shit. Sorry, language. Jilliman's actually a great example because the skill damage is where it's all coming from, right? The base attack hits like nothing. So, any of your damage dealer, like even Nita, I mean, is viable, where you're not relying on the base attack multiplier in it, that's doing the damage. So key thing here, right? Even think about things like Andreas, right? I would even consider putting this on Andreas because, see, the base attack damage actually isn't very high. The detonation damage is done through the the dots itself. So his base attack damage, I mean, we can take a look at it right now. If you look at it, and if you haven't checked out my other video on the game mechanics on, how do the damages actually getting calculated? You see, it's this 22% attack damage that's going to be reduced, right? So that is going to be reduced by 20%. So that's going to go down to like 180 as the multiplier. But the big damage he's going to be doing is actually the detonation part, right? The detonation is going to be 300% ignoring defense when he gets, when he's applying this burn to the target that already has the burn. So that detonation part is not going to be reduced by 20%. So it's just this portion. So sometimes when you really think about it, what overall contribution is this part to the overall damage is what you have to consider. Um, so for direct damage dealer, that's important, but for your dot damage dealers, this particular stamp is actually okay. You're not going to be losing too much damage because your basic attack is really applying the dot, not doing the damage. Ultimate defense is kind of cool. Reduces their attack and increase their defense. So if this is a support hero, right, you're not really relying on its attack. This is good. Now, don't put this on your brain hill because if you haven't checked out my other video on the mechanics of how damage dealers work, your attack will impact all direct damage dealers. So for your supports, this might be a good option. When the owner takes basic attack damage, they have a certain chance of inflicting bleed uh, as a one turn cooldown, right? So this is really cool. So if you really need that additional bleed damage on the target, right? And for example, whether it goes to certain game mechanics where you need all 3 different bleed type damage, the boss is going to be AoEing you a lot. Maybe put this bright armor on all of your heroes, and then you're like putting 5 layers of bleed dots on the enemy to fulfill those conditions. So this is really cool. The armor spikes and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool. We'll have to see how it works. We don't know if this is gonna. I highly doubt this is gonna be interacting with your effective hit. This might be just a straight up percentage. Who knows? Haven't tested it yet. But interesting way to add, this mechanic adding bleed. I'm assuming then the damage will then be based off, the mass tree. So really, for your dot damage dealer, this is maybe an option for some additional bleed damage. Victory sprint. So this is great for, boosting the rest of your team. So something like Catherine, where she's fast, she takes multiple turns, quickly get the 4 turns done, then your entire rest of your team gets, a 3% increase. Now, when wording works like this, I always feel like this is actually on your overall stat, not on your base stat. So this could be quite impactful because this is like a buff, right? So buffs are usually applied on top of your stats overall. So for example, like the 20% attack up, it's on the overall stat of your hero when you enter the wave, not on the base, 1000 stat it has. So when you look at, some of these buffs, this 3% is actually worth quite a bit. Finally, Divine Barrier. So this is really good because this kind of just gives everybody additional defense. Now, I don't think it stacks by the wording of it. Well, again, we have to do some testing, right? And like I said, this is if we go into all the testing, all the details, this video will never end. But this is probably a good one for things like, your key supports. You bring it on, you get like extra 6% defense on all of your heroes, just making them a little bit more tanky to survive the waves, the earlier phases of the boss where you're trying to stabilize. Okay, over onto the epics. So this is where now we start seeing really cool effects that help specific heroes. So off the top, and of course we see the generic ones, right? So heroes that are under stealth, increase direct damage. This just spells perfect for Lucifer, or even Rister, right? Rister is going to be so any hero that you plan to pair up with Rister is going to be Cloak, so that additional, it's really going to be benefiting this damage here. We got the spell breaking impact. So when you're casting a spell, every layer of buff stolen or removed, they will increase the direct damage. So, you know, Joloman sounds like a perfect, hero for this. And sometimes it's really cool because they, have icons that actually kind of suggest this would be a perfect hero for. The next one is Chivalry. You increase your base crit attack. Now, when you cast active skills, you start increasing your own attack. Um, when remove all gale when they're inflicted with an all trigger. So this is almost like it's a really strong buff, but if your owner kind of gets hit by debuffs, then the effects can be triggered. So, it's sort of like, you're charging away and, but the moment you get stopped, you kind of lose all the buffs. So, so it's kind of, you have to find a way to fulfill this condition. So maybe pair up with something like anti-buff removal, buff resistance, so things like, Marvel or, with Nordak, your damage dealers, direct damage dealer can really benefit from this. I would say this is even viable in PvP. I mean, if because if you're going for all your early turns, right, you can be gaining these buffs and you finishing the opponents off before even taking damage or taking debuffs. This is really good. Poised posture, so this is crit damage, and fails to deal damage on their turn. Grant them 6th layer of self-affecting. So this is one of those interesting ones. It's sort of like you cast a skill, but it doesn't do damage on their turn. I wonder which hero does this resemble? Doesn't this look like Xia to you? Xia or Xia, right? So it's the game starting to add specific content that is going to really help specific heroes out. So if this really works, and Xiao's passive doesn't count as dealing damage in their turn, then she's going to be getting these self-affecting, and then convert them all to sword out. So then each layer increases the attack and crit damage. So yeah, so all of a sudden drastically boosting Xiao's damage if she has the stamp. So this is in a way really cool, creating heroes that are underused right now. The devs know they're underused, but instead of doing a complete hero rework, they're adding stamps to kind of balance the heroes a little bit. This guy looks like Barry, and we see mastery up. So detonation damage, smoke diffusion until the beginning increase the crit damage. So normally, right? So normally your burn heroes and your dot damage dealers don't benefit from this. But guess who benefits from it? Barry. So, almost like a card designed just for Barry, right? And this does look like Barry. Um, Poison. Increase all allies poison damage when the owner survives. And inflicts one layer of poison on the owner for 2 turns. Doesn't this kind of look like Walter, right? So Walter doesn't actually take poison damage. Nita converts any poison to to heal. So imagine using this on Nita or Walter. This is like a perfect setup, right? You can't use this on other heroes trying to amplify the poison damage. But this, really neat card that, really going to amplify your Walter and Nita. Exploding Arrow, increasing your crit damage. If their crit rate 100 when their turn ends, increase their crit damage until. Why do I feel like this is Sana? Does Sana have some sort of passive that increases her crit rate by a huge amount? Like this looks like a Sana to me, but I'll have to go check. But this is kind of interesting because what kind of hero reaches 150% when yeah, so this is really interesting, right? Power of protection. So this is the first one I think we see with a lot of HP. So for every ally with ally protection granted by the owner, give the owner Forest Guardian. Doesn't this look like Gru? Isn't this Gru? You get more HP for Gru, and then you start with everybody with ally protection, right? So when we get into Epic and Legendary cards, you'll see they're like really cool because they just balance patch everybody, a whole bunch of heroes with these. So yeah, more healing. This is gonna make Gru actually very relevant once you get this card. This almost tells me like, hey, maybe we should do a tier list. Hint for future video, right? We're gonna do a tier list of what your heroes look like with the right stamps on them. Grant whenever the owner grants self a shield or consider a shield, increase their attack and piercing. Serena, right? Serena gets herself shields, increases attack and piercing. Does this mean Serena becomes more relevant? Right? I mean, another hero that gives itself shields a lot, right? I mean, I don't think another hero is going to benefit from this as much as Serena. So, really cool to see what Serena looks like with this stamp on her. Striking armor. When owner casts basic attack, increase self damage, reflect. Is this for Elliot or Elliot? Cast powerful earthquake. All enemy loses based on the HP. Inflict increase the damage reduction. So yeah, this could be kind of cool on her, right? Like you get the HP. Like these are really interesting. Soul burning. If you increase in far ember, so we all know. Anyone want to take care of guess? You know what this hero is down in the below in the comments below. Another hero that we used to see a lot of play of, but who's that Pokemon, right? This is really gonna boost this particular hero quite a bit because he's the only one in game that has a mix. Actually, no, he's not the only one. There are two heroes in the game that has a mix of HP burn and burn. But and this is really gonna be interesting to maybe we'll see more play of this particular hero. Bloody Ice Armor. Is this Chardonnay? Yeah, increase their defense and bleed damage. Oh my god. And it has highest HP or defense alone, increase this effect by 30%. So if Chardonnay wasn't strong enough, this one was gonna make it even stronger. Tuck, right? Tuck has the problem of freezing its allies. So why don't we increase the HP of our allies when we freeze them? So yeah, this is just like, really buffing it up. Ghost protection. This one's interesting. I'm trying to figure out who will be really beneficial from that. Oh, I think I kind of know, right? Who actually has very high effect res and effect hit. So this is another one, Zara, right? So Zara has very high effective rate, and she benefits from high effect hit. So this kind of look like Zara. Zara's underplayed. Ascendo, Ascendo. So here, now, not only do you inflict all that silence, now your silence do so much more. You can absorb max HP from the enemy. You're also going to increase your turn meter further. Um, and so basically, your Sendo just gets more turns and, start doing more damage. That's just great. This looks like a Mamook. So when the owner is affected with taunt, so you're taunting, you're restoring max HP and you're gaining mana enhancement. So you're increasing your, so this works great on Mamook, this works great on French, who's going to taunt. Right, great hero, great additional benefit to it. Battle Desire. Um, can grant self attributes that can increase attack, additional Moonlight Bright increase. This will be triggered when I think this as much as looks like Mewtwo, but owner grants self attribute buffs that can increase attack. Yeah, this is Mewtwo, all right, because you actually have to be able to grant self buff that increase attack. So and get a benefit from direct damage. So the stamp really is for Mewtwo. I mean, there are some generic ones, right? Like I think almost as we go through all these heroes, like they all seem to benefit specific heroes a lot more than others, and they seem kind of not as great as the epic ones, right? The epic one seems quite generic, but the epic one's starting to look very hero specific. When hero reduce the HP of the shield, grants self increase attack. So um, I'm not sure. Like this to me looks like perfect on this guy. I think it's Horror is his name? Is it Horror or yeah, Terror. There we go. Like he's the guy that does a whole bunch of damage through shields, right? So if they have shield and he's doing damage through shields, he's gonna be doing a lot more for the stamp. So we see all of these underutilized heroes. And Swift, this looks like Sylvie, right? Like Sylvie doesn't, Sylvie's guaranteed crit damages. So why don't we just remove all crit hit and give her a whole bunch of crit damage? I would even consider using this on my Machello. Like assuming I'm gonna be nuking people, like skill 2, I can be nuking that as long as I guarantee a debuff on the enemy. Ocean Legacy. So this looked like Swallow to me, but this is going to, increase basic attack. Yeah, perfect for Swall. So Seawall, Swall. Yeah, he's going to be doing a little bit more. I don't like the fact it's effect res though. Like I think it would be better if this was defense. But nonetheless, I mean, we saw a really cool way. That's why I said at the beginning of this video, I love the way the devs have done this. As much as this is behind a paywall and you have to pay and gradually get it, but I'm sure with time, I mean, these are epics, right? So, you got a 1 in 10 chance of summoning it. So this really will allow some of the underused heroes come into play. So this will make, a very good video a few months down the road when we actually see how impactful are these stamps to balancing some of the underutilized heroes that are weaker on the tier list. Now, when we get into legendary, this is where we start to see again um, more generic um, boost. And what I see with these is what they're trying to do is help the dot damage dealer and without breaking the PvP meta. So remember when I said, look at this game, and we're showing the whale account by the way. So, it's barely pushing its way to stage 40, right? Somehow we're gonna get there someday, right? And also when we look at a Withering Coast, you know, I think let's see how well Klee's at. Klee's at 6.6 bill. But we do know that the reward does go up to, you know, exceeding 16 bills. So Klee has, some ways to go before getting to this level. But yeah, I mean, at that point you're getting a whole shitload, like a whole ton of mythics. So I mean, but realistic, I mean, we could see Klee potentially hitting, you know, 9.6 bills soon, which is quite impressive and quite impactful. He's the only one that's passed this mark so far in this game. So based off his progression, we can see how impactful stamps are. Back to the stamps. So let's finally talk about the legendary stamps. So this is pretty much for your poison damage dealer, right? So they basically introduced one for each dot damage type and one for direct damage, hoping, and all of these are more impacting the damage output. I don't think they impact PvP as much because they don't seem to drastically increase the burst potential of certain heroes, and they seem to be more of a ramp up style design. So this is marking the target with poison, but it's like increasing the damage in subsequent turns, so it's not like massive burst. Blood fight. So this is like, Quinlan, Acidon, or Acidon, like the heroes that are trying to kill themselves but do HP burn. This is gonna make them relevant, right? This looks like a Elza to me, and now when you're healing, when you lose your HP, you get um, extend a beacon, right? So you're getting more heal effect, and when any ally dies, consume the beacon, and then you heal everybody else. So not only keeping your allies giving them immortal, but you're also healing them up a little bit. So this is really cool. This look like a Besmok to me. Oh, sorry. This looks like a Taru to me, right? And this works perfectly with Taru. Intertwine or heal. You're getting additional shielding effects. So again, it's trying to make it relevant, but this is kind of cool, but this one I don't think is as generic. So what we're really aiming for is the generic ones here, right? Like Fire Lord, straight up increasing burn damage, more layers, more burn damage. Yay. This looks like it can stack up to pretty high especially once you get more stars on this thing. Blood carving, this is just bleeders, right? You bleed, whenever you inflict bleed, you increase your mastery even more. So more attack, more mastery, your bleeder, like your Lucia is going to do a crazy amount. Sorry, this might not actually work very well on Lucia because, see, this is kind of misleading because this is using a Lucia icon, right? But, Lucia actually relies on crit a lot. So, sorry, what am I talking about? This is Alicia, right? This is not Lucia. This looks more like Alicia. So, heroes that don't rely on crit, all of your bleeders, except Lucia, will really benefit from this. So this is maybe Hidden Wave hasn't really gotten, the love it deserves. So they're really buffing it. And this one is the new hero, Author, Oster. Sorry, let me make sure. I know people make fun of me when I mention the heroes' names. I'm not Karzak. He pronounces better. If you haven't checked it out, we have done a lot of collabs on tier list. Ether? Ether? Author? Anyways, she's gonna really benefit from this. The icon's just for her, and she's in wave. She's in that status all the time, and this is boosting her defense even, allies turns even more, right? So this is exactly what she needs. She's gonna be counter attack a lot, so great skill damage there. This is really interesting. The owner will remove all buffs, and for each removed buff and debuff, you can be doing additional damage. So maybe this is kind of cool in PvP if you expect, like maybe your perma-freeze team or whatnot, but I sometimes find if you're buffing yourself like with a Bisodent and you're losing all those buff, you're actually losing a lot more than. But I don't know what this 9% is going to be, right? So if this 9% goes up to say 18% or 20% per stack, that's going to be huge. So yeah, we'll let the mega whales tell us how good this gets at 5 stars. Um, Finally, we got someone who's inflicting HP burns a whole bunch of time. Angie Han, she's the one that applies a ridiculous number of HP burns, so this is perfect for her. So yeah, so we got this one for HP burn. We also got this one. So I mean, technically Hez will benefit from this, but these will really potentially change things up. With this, and Jihan probably will outshine Hez, right? And Asodan, we might actually finally see him being used, because now you're getting a huge amount of HP and HP burn damage when you're losing HP from self. Like, could we potentially be seeing Quinn Lin now in more PvE content? Who knows, right? So so these are really cool. I love, again, I'll say great job devs on this one. You really balanced a lot of heroes and try to make them more relevant. As much as is behind paywall and additional content. I like the fact that you balance things quite a bit. So Long video. If you liked my blabbering, if you liked, the insights I share with you, please, like, subscribe, and comment below. If you have any questions or suggestions, or to my videos, or I always appreciate the feedback. Just the other day, some guy said, man, this guy, bro, you're decoding the game, and that's what I intend to do, right? I try to break down the game content, make it simple, easy to understand, tell you all the niche details that you might have missed that's impactful for your gameplay, and hopefully help you take you to the top of your gameplay. That's the promise of my channel. That's the motivation behind my game, my work here. I truly believe that with more game knowledge you can really amplify and bring the best out of your account for the money you spend in it. So that's all for today. Hoping I'll definitely be doing a lot of coverage. In a couple more hours we'll be able to start the Broken Isles. So yeah, I will definitely, sorry, Broken Land. I will definitely be covering it. Our guild has the highest power right now across the board. A lot of whales. We're still waiting a couple last ones to get registered, but I think we're looking forward to it. We are going to hopefully be able to clear the content first across all the guild. So we'll definitely update you on that in a future video. All right, take care everyone. Gandalf out.